Are you about to go live?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. So glad to have you all here. My name is Grace Kabeya, and I'm an account manager for Wattpad Studios. Thank you so much for joining us at the 4th event in our Wattpad Speak series, Creativity, Compassion, and Community with Maybelline. We're so excited to have you all here. So this event is in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, and reading and writing have always been important outlets for people. But COVID-19 has impacted mental health in challenging new ways. So today, we're going to explore how readers and writers can be brave together, normalize mental health conversations, and build compassionate communities around our shared experiences. So in a time that's been filled with confusion and isolation and pain, we want you to know that you have a home here. You have a home in Wattpad, and you have a community. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our incredible panelists who all create a compassionate space for their readers through their stories. We have Jo Watson, author of Big Boned, Sky Chase, author of Saving Everest, and Rachel Meinke, author of Along for the Ride. So here's how this hour is going to work. We'll spend the first half of the discussion talking about being brave together in our writing, how we can use creativity to facilitate well-being and more, and then we'll dedicate the latter half of the hour to audience questions. So get typing. If you have questions for any of our authors, please drop it in the chat box and we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the discussion. This is also an authentic, organic conversation, so feel free to use the chat to speak to us. We'd love to hear from you. So with that, let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Hi, Sky. Hi, Jo. Hi, Rachel. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't absolutely fangirling over all of you right now. I am so honored to be in conversation with each of you. So one of my favorite Wattpad hacks is going to the end of an author's book just to read the comments that people have left. And something that's striking to me when I go to the end of all your respective books is how you've just managed to immerse your readers in your worlds and you've created community through your books. So I want to know, how do you do that? And when you're writing, what is the one thing you want your readers to feel? So maybe I'll start off with Jo. How do you do that?
Well, I obviously want the readers to feel everything that the character's feeling. I want to take them on a journey and, have the highs and the lows. I like to bring a lot of comedy in my books as well. So I hope people sort of feel entertained as well as get something else out of them. I don't know what else. What was the question exactly again? What I want people to feel? What was the other part of it?
So how do you immerse your readers in your world?
Okay.
And how do you create community through your books? And what do you want your readers to feel?
I really enjoy the sense of community that Wattpad brings. I really love it. I enjoy reading the comments. I often respond to the comments. I've even changed elements in my story, because some people have said, we didn't like this, or we thought that should be done this way. So I try and engage a lot with my readers. I think writing is an incredibly lonely thing. Well, it can be. And I think the great thing about Wattpad is it makes it live. It makes it interesting. It makes it in the moment. So you don't feel so alone sitting in your bedroom sort of typing away on a computer. And then obviously in terms of the feeling question, it is really just essentially, I want the readers to feel what the character's feeling. I want them to go on an amazing journey, feel the highs, feel the lows. And then hopefully when they get to the end of the book, they've connected with this character and they've gotten to know them.
Oh yeah.
So did I answer both parts? There we go.
I answered that super well. I think your readers feel that. I can tell from the comments. And I love how you immerse comedy. So. Oh no, they do. And I love how you immerse comedy in your stories, but you also tackle hard-hitting topics. So it's
yeah, I
such a
do use a
beautiful
lot of
balance.
comedy. Yeah,
Love-
perhaps I deflect with comedy in life a little bit. I don't know.
But don't we all?
Don't we all? Yes.
Don't we all? How about you, Rachel?
I am going to kind of piggyback off of what Joe said, and I definitely use the community aspect of Wattpad to my advantage. So writing can definitely be a lonely task, but on Wattpad, I feel a much bigger sense of community. So I definitely take advantage of my author's notes to check in with my readers, see what they're liking, see what they're not liking, as well as the same as incorporate different changes in the story. I've definitely changed plot twists in the story if they were guessed too early or things like that. And I use Wattpad to sort of build this community around my book, as well as just in general, like all of us together going on this journey, because I don't always know how it's going to end either. So I just think it's really fun and exciting for all of us to do that together.
I really love that. I love how both you and Joe listen to your readers, and it's almost like you're writing along with them, right? Like it's not just Rachel creating this world, but it's like Rachel plus, I don't know, 5,000 people writing the story. I really like that. Thanks for sharing, Rachel.
And the readers are smart. Sorry, I just have to say, readers are super smart. They'll pick up things that you've missed. And like you say, if a plot twist, you've got a huge, cool plot twist in mind, but they guess it, you're off with it. So, it's really great to listen to them.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like it can actually sharpen your writing skills.
Yeah.
Like you have like a community of peers who are sharpening your craft, which is absolutely amazing. And how about you, Sky? I'd love to hear from you.
That's exactly what happened to me. Like when I first joined Wattpad, I remember I wrote like this, it was a horrible werewolf book. And it had, by the end of the day, like 3 reads, 1 vote. And those 3 reads and 1 vote was just so encouraging to me that I just wanted to keep writing on the platform. And then when I wrote Saving Everest, it was like I was writing it like with everyone else. Like I took out things that people probably didn't like, or I switched this around or moved this around. And then by the end of it, it's like, look, guys, look what we did. Because like they were in on it with me too. So Wattpad is community.
I really like that. And so for everyone in the chat, go leave a nice comment on one of your writers' books. Like it does mean something. That 1 vote, it's just nice. Like it's a form of, I guess, reassurance from the people around you. So yeah, I love that, Sky. How do you know it was horrible? Who says it was horrible?
It was bad. I was not. Wattpad actually helped me be a better writer, because you can look at other books and see like what was good, and I'm like, okay, my structure is all the way off. You can look at different writing styles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was bad.
Fair enough. Well, you've come a long way, that's for sure.
We've all written bad things.
Yeah.
It's a form of self-care. It's a way to express themselves and work through what they're feeling and experiencing in the world. So how is writing a form of self-care for you, Rachel?
So I think for me, it is very, like I put a lot of myself, as well as I'm developing these characters, they all have a sense of me in them. So different aspects of me. And it is very, and I can't think of the word at the moment, but it is very helpful for me to write these stories out and to be able to kind of live through my characters a little bit, as well as use this as a moment to escape. So, I work full time, so it is very nice to come home at the end of the day and be able to sit down and dive into my characters and tell their story a little bit, as well as live that with my readers.
That is so amazing. And I think that's one of my favorite things about your book. It's like, the past year we've been in lockdown for the most part, and so it's so nice to read a book and be like, actually I feel like I'm traveling somewhere. I feel like, and so I really commend you for managing to pull that off in your books, for sure. How about you, Sky? How is writing a form of self-care for you?
So I think that writing and reading is a form of escapism. I think like you're going anywhere but here, And it's like you're going to a completely different world. And when you're a writer, you're basically a master of worlds. Like you're creating a different universe than the one that you're in. And that can be really helpful when, like I said, you want to go anywhere but here. So yeah, it's definitely self-care.
I feel like everyone should go and change their LinkedIn profile if you're a writer to Master of Worlds. I think
that's a good one.
Cool. That's such a good one.
It's a good one.
I'm Grace, a Master of Worlds. How about you, Joe?
I mean, I think specifically Big Boned was really sort of an exercise in self-care. I mean, I started writing this book. It's an incredibly personal book, and I actually started writing it 3 weeks after my son was diagnosed with autism. And the character in the book, there is a character on the autism spectrum in the book. And it was really an opportunity for me to kind of learn more about it, sort of work through my feelings about it. And then I wrote about a character who has anxiety disorder, like I have, as well as other things. And I think that it gives you an opportunity. I think the word maybe you were looking for was cathartic. It's quite there you go. Yeah, there you go. So it's quite cathartic to be able to kind of work through. I mean, it sounds quite trite to say work through some of your issues through characters, but it really can be a tool for you to work through some of your issues. And I think certainly, when people reach out to you and say to you, you wrote this thing, it really resonated with me, or wow, my son's autistic or whatever, and they reach out and you have a dialogue with them, that's also just as cathartic. So, it kind of is a twofold experience, self-care and then reaching out and actually attracting people into a greater community. We can have conversations with them. I mean, I've had wonderful conversations with people about these things who've read my book. So it's just layers of self-care, really, get in a community.
Oh,
yeah.
I just got the warm and fuzzies. I think you remind people that they're not alone, and that is such a beautiful thing be. No, I think your books really do that, and you manage to connect with people all around the world. Like, you're in South Africa, but I know for sure that people in Canada, like myself, can read your book and know that we're not alone, or like can resonate with some of your characters. So thank you so much for sharing that, Joe. So back to everyone, you've all written about difficult topics. How do you cope and care for yourself when you're writing about topics that can be harmful or stressful? I'll start with Sky, because I know Saving Everest does tackle some difficult topics.
Yeah. So I think that you shouldn't write unless you're in the mood for whatever topic you're writing for, because I don't think it really makes much sense to put yourself in such a negative scene, like a really harsh scene, if you're in a good headspace. I think that it's also a form of self-care to, like, if you're feeling bad, you can really go into depth with that bad or harsh scene. So just writing what I was in the mood for. And when I wrote Saving Everest, I was really stressed. I was dealing with depression. So it was really easy for me to draw notes. And like, actually some parts of Saving Everest have like journal entries from my own diary. So just write what you're in the mood for, basically.
I like that. And I would encourage everyone watching to follow what Sky is saying, like check in with yourself. I think it's really important to also assess where you're at in life and how much you can give to a story at the time. But I do think with Saving Everest, I can really tell that you draw from such a deep and authentic place. So thank you for blessing us with that book. How about you, Rachel? How do you cope and care for yourself?
So for me, I definitely allow myself to feel every emotion when I'm writing. So I was actually on vacation with my family last week, and I was writing a little bit, and I was like, oh, I can't write the scene right now. I'm going to cry when I write it. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, like it's a really difficult scene. And I know I'm going to feel that when I write it. So it's definitely making sure, as Sky said, that you're in the right headspace to write that kind of scene. And then afterwards, really checking in with yourself. Like, hey, you felt a lot of emotions when you were writing that. How are you doing? And then if you need a break, just stepping away. Like, I wrote a really difficult scene today. I think I'm going to call it a day and just have some me time.
That is so important. I know that writers can have the tendency to be quite tough on themselves. Like, I need to, reach the specific goal, 10,000 words by tomorrow. But I love what you said, Rachel, about like taking a step back, like, okay, let me take care of myself first. I think it's really important. How about you, Jo?
Well, I've got a story of how I kind of had a really bad experience writing a book a couple of years ago. Well, not a bad experience, but it was an experience in not taking good care of myself. I wrote a story called Finding You, which was about a girl that goes in search of her adoptive father. And I'm adopted, and my biological mother won't tell me who my adoptive father is. I mean, my biological father is. So it was a kind of a really personal subject. And I thought, oh, this is going to be easy to write. I'm just going to write it. This is, I can do this. And it actually took such a toll on me. It was such a personal, it was such a personal book. And I really went through the ringer with my emotions. And I sort of, by the end of it, vowed I'm not going to write a book that personal again. Well, which that didn't last long because, But I landed up having to go back to my therapist after that because I was in such a bad sort of headspace about it. I think I just explored things and looked at things that I hadn't really looked at. I sort of explored things that I actually hadn't explored for myself as an individual through my character. So it can really mess you up, I think, and you do have to take care of yourself. Therapists are good for that.
Therapists are good. And I think being able to speak to someone and talk through what you're feeling and just I think it's always important to reach out when you can. In that instance, Jo, I'm so glad that you had someone to reach out to and that you weren't just processing it by yourself, right? So it's really good.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing when you decide to write something so personal. And then you sort of put it out into the world. And you've put the baby out into the world, and now people can criticize it and give it reviews or whatever. So it's a big deal. You have to look after yourself when you've written something so personal that you're now just going to sort of share with the world. It's very important, I think.
Yeah.
I've learned how to do that better.
Definitely. And I'm glad. I'm so glad to hear that. And I'd love to know from our audience, like, if you derive from your own personal stories, like, what do you do to take care of yourself? Because I think we can all help each other with this. So when we talk about mental health and well-being, it can so often become, a very heavy conversation. But if there's one thing I've learned, there are always things that bring us joy, and they're equally as important to talk about. So what is one thing that has brought you joy in the past year? And did this activity find its way into your writing at all? So I'm going to pass this on to Sky.
Just one?
Or you can list a couple. It's fine.
I think, okay, so this year has been tough. Just like in general, it's been a really rough year. But I do think that it was really cool how, like, within this isolation and quarantine and stuff, that I was able to find new and different, unique ways to love the people I love. Like, we're so busy prior to this, we're still in it, but prior to it, we were on go, or for me especially, like going to work, school stuff, writing. Like, I don't really look twice at the people. But now I see, like, my little sister, she's so good at art, and I never knew this until like this past year. Or I didn't know that my boyfriend can make such a good crepe, because like, when are we ever having breakfast together? Like, he's in school, I'm at work. Like, I love how I was able to, during this past year, find new things about people that I love. That was really cool. And I was able to write too, so that was cool.
Oh, I love that.
That's beautiful. That's
I think
great.
It's so nice. Like, you've learned how to love people well and discover things about people that you didn't know.
Yeah.
I do want to know, what flavor was that crepe?
Strawberry, but Nutella.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is such a great quarantine skill to have, I feel. So nice. And maybe your sister's a future like cover designer for your future books. Who knows? Oh, so good. How about you, Rachel?
So I think for me, I took a little bit of a break from writing during quarantine. I was working from home. I felt a little bit trapped in my office at times. So I actually took to flipping furniture. So that's a new thing that I tried doing. I can't say it'll follow me outside of quarantine. It was a very stressful yet rewarding experience, but I did have some fun with picking up furniture on Facebook Marketplace and seeing what I could do with it.
You have to show me.
So you buy it and you like pimp it up and then you sort of sell it off.
I kept
like when
it.
you say,
So
oh, okay. So you didn't, okay.
I also moved during quarantine. So I did what I could with some furniture.
I might need to touch base with you, Rachel, after this, because I'm moving next month and I'm like, Facebook Marketplace is a different world. So that is, I'm glad that you found something that you're good at and something that brings you joy. And I also like what you pointed out about, I think at the beginning of quarantine, especially, there was all this pressure, like if you don't come out of the season having learned 5 languages and having written 2 books, then you have failed. And I love what you said about just letting yourself be. And I hope that everyone takes that away from this today, that you're doing the best you can. Everyone is doing the best they can. So thanks, Rachel, for pointing that out.
Can I just say, I love that you said that, Grace, because I just want to say that was my bugbear during this lockdown thing, was how everyone was, kind of putting, learn 5 languages and, play the violin and let's play the flute and stuff. And it was like, let's just also just take care of our mental health.
Yeah.
Do I need to come out of here speaking Mandarin and play the ukulele? I don't think so.
No,
it was that drove me insane. Sorry, thank you for that. Because I think it puts a lot of pressure on people who are not feeling okay as well. To have this really lofty expectation that we must all emerge also like 20 kilos thinner and, thanks for that's.
And for the people
social media pressure.
Exactly. There's quite a bit of pressure, but I do want to say for the people who do thrive on that, that's great, but it shouldn't be an expectation for everyone, right? Yeah.
No, it shouldn't.
No, so it can definitely relate to that a lot. And you know what, in the past year, I think being brave together, I was just thinking about what that means to me. And honestly, I think it just means speaking out when I need help. I'm quite an insular person, so it takes a bit of courage for me to actually ask for help, and doing everything I can to take care of myself, whether it's reading, whether it's having conversations with people like this online. I would love to know what being brave together means to you. So maybe Rachel, I'll ask you, what does being brave together mean to you?
So I think being brave together means to me just to really focus on your community. And what I mean by that is not necessarily like everybody in your community, but especially like the people that are close to you. Really hone in on them, have those check-ins, as well as don't be afraid to reach out to those that you feel comfortable to let them know, to make sure that they're checking in with you as well. So I think being brave together is just really important to me in the aspect of knowing that there are people that I can consider in my corner and in my community.
Yes, there's people rooting for you a lot. So I'm glad you feel that. How about you, Sky?
I honestly sat and thought about what brave together means for a while, because I wrote a piece for Maybelline's thing. So I was trying to figure out, what does being brave together mean? And I think it means, like, for us, we're literally, none of us have a blueprint to life. None of us have the instructions. We're all moving pieces in a game that we don't know the rules for, but yet we're going to try to win anyways. We're going to get up and we're going to do our best. And I think that's what brave together means.
Oh, yes. I love that you said that none of us have the blueprint, because that is so true. If there's one thing I've learned this year, is none of us have the blueprint. But no, I really appreciate what you said. Thank you.
And the irony of that is that when you are feeling bad, you don't want to reach out.
No.
So if you are depressed, certainly for me, if I'm depressed, I become completely insular, and then I don't pick up people's phone calls. So it's like, the irony is when you do need it the most, that's when you should be brave together, and that's when you should reach out. But, so you really need people, I think, around you to kind of poke you a little bit and say, reach out, but it's hard.
Mm-hmm. And to everyone like watching and listening, wherever you are, I just hope that you find solace, like, be it in the books that you read, be it in the community that you have on Wattpad. Like, you don't have to go through this like life alone. And that's really what I think all of us, Joe, Sky, Rachel, want to convey to you all, that you really do have a space. And you know what, Joe, you're right. Like when people are going through it or in the midst of it, it's really tough to reach out.
Yeah.
But as long as they know that they have a place that they can just be, I think that's helpful. So thank you all for sharing your amazing answers. I think that it's just so great that each of you have all either been published or will soon be published by Wattpad Books. To me, you've made it. You've effectively made it. So do you have any advice for aspiring authors who would like to follow in your footsteps? I'll start with Sky, because I know your book has been on the market for a while. So yeah.
Advice? Okay. So I swear this is not sponsored, but Wattpad is the truth. Okay. So for me, like I'm as a young writer, most of my writings just went into notebooks that went absolutely nowhere. But then I found out about Wattpad, and then I could put my work on a platform that other people can enjoy. Like I said earlier, like I could learn how to be a better writer. And then Wattpad has their own publishing company. So like if it's, you know, this is the story that you want to pursue, pitch it to Wattpad. They have a publishing company. I just think it's super easy. And it also offers like a completely different experience than your normal typical writer-reader relationship, because you already have the fan base after the fact, after you getting published. You have the support versus like you being somewhere else and then you have to fight for it. So I think that Wattpad is the truth, and that you should go ahead and make an account if you didn't already.
I promise this is not sponsored, so thank you. Thank you.
That was going to be my answer too.
I love that.
It's true though.
Oh, thank you. I think that you have that like built-in audience. It's almost like you have a team of people rooting for you, so that when your books then make that transition into publication, it's like your whole community is coming with you. And I love that Wattpad Books really is looking for just a breadth of stories, a breadth of experiences to highlight. And I think that's even just apparent here with the group of authors that we have. So no, thank you, Sky and Joe. I agree. How about you, Rachel?
I think for me, I was always really good at starting stories. I still am. So writing the first chapter, sometimes even through the third chapter, and then jumping on to the next project. So I think for me, it's really important that I can never write one story at a time, but I hone in on like my top 2 or 3 projects and really try to see those through to the end. Just so that I am not always, because when you're always project jumping, you never have a complete story to share. And I think Wattpad really helped me in that. Again, just kind of jumping on this train of your readers want to see the end of your story. So even though I've been updating the same story for 5 years, we are going to see the end of it. So I think it's really helpful when you have readers that are so excited for your work and wanting that next update, so that it kind of pushes you to be like, okay, I really do need to focus on this story, even though I have 50 other stories waiting in the back of my head.
Oh yeah, I like that.
It puts nice pressure on you.
Nice
it's like
pressure.
It's like pressure, but it's nice.
Definitely. It's like giving yourself like kind milestones to hit, right? So you're not being like a sergeant, you're not being super, super strict on yourself, but you are aiming towards something, right? So I'm curious, just out of curiosity, are you all like pantsers or planners? Who do we have in this group here? Do you plan your story, or do you kind of just let it flow as you're writing?
I'm a planner.
Yeah. Okay. You said that with such like confidence.
Yeah, I had to think about it, but I'm most definitely a planner.
Definitely. Yeah. How about you?
I don't plan, and I land myself into. If you ask my Wattpad readers, I will, in the middle of a book, go, hey guys, I'm so sorry. I've written myself into a corner. I don't know how to get out of it. I'm going to go back and change things in the beginning so that I can make sure that stuff makes sense further on. I am terrible. I've written myself into so many corners by not planning. that, I mean, it's a disaster. I need to learn to plan, but I can't. I think I'm allergic to it, even though I desperately need to do it.
That's okay. We need a balance.
I write outlines, and I kind of follow the Save the Cat method, and I write my outline, but my story is never the same as the outline. So I think I fall in the middle.
That's interesting.
Yeah, no, I think we need a balance. I'm a serial reader, so it's always lovely to just pick all your writers' brains. But thank you so much for your lovely answers, and I think they've helped me and everyone watching. So with that, I'd really like to just transition into questions from our audience. So if you have a question for these writers, please type it away. We'd love to speak to you. Okay, so we have one question. Yeah. So from Anna Steffey. Hi, Anna. When you're feeling down with creativity, what are some things you do to pick yourself up?
Watch movies.
Oh,
yeah, that's a good one.
Watch movies. And I'm like, okay, I don't like how that ended. I don't like that scene. I would have done it this way. That's an idea. Write it down.
Yeah.
So
Love it. What is one of the last movies you watched that just like struck up something? You got your creativity. The Mummy.
The Mummy, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I haven't watched it in so long.
The what?
The Mummy. For Brendan Fraser?
As in like wrapped up. Yeah. Oh, The Mummy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
so
got
good.
it.
I don't know about the second one, but the first one's so good. And I just took that and using that for my little adventure story that I'm writing right now. So
awesome. I'm curious now from like Rachel and Joe, like where have you gotten your inspiration? Do you watch movies? Do you read books? Like,
it's actually funny because the first book I ever wrote, I rewrote the ending to a movie. Yeah, I definitely do rely heavily on other forms of media. So I'm more of a TV show person than a movie person. I also love musicals. So I listen to a lot of musicals, and when I'm not feeling the most creative, I will start a new musical and kind of let that story play out. And then I always find inspiration from that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite one? I have to ask.
Well, okay. Today it is In the Heights. The movie is coming out in like 3 weeks. So I'm really into the musical to prepare for the movie.
Love it. Anna, I'm glad you like musicals too. So yeah, that's definitely one way to pick yourself up. Are there any other questions from our audience? Send them through. Okay, so has it been hard to write or continue a story during quarantine? Joe, I can tell you have something to say.
I have struggled so much. I mean, I had 2 books due to my publisher during this time period. And I was supposed to be writing a romantic comedy, and I handed my book into my publisher, and she read it, and she kind of said, "Can we have a phone call?" So I said, "Sure," which just never sounds good, right, when they want a phone call. And she said to me, the first 3 chapters are reading a little bit like, a thriller. Is that what you were going for? And I was like, no, I was going for a comedy. But I really, really struggled to write specifically my genre romantic comedy during this time, because I just felt, there was so much, atrocities and heartbreak and trauma going on in the world. And it was just so hard to disconnect from that and sit down and go, oh, no, I need to be funny and write a rom-com. So I have really struggled. Having said that, I did write 2 books, but they were like pulling teeth sometimes. This has not been an easy time for my creativity, certainly, and certainly not writing romantic comedies. It almost felt disrespectful writing romantic comedies. I felt, Yeah.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people can relate, and I just want to say well done, because look at you, you're here. I know it was a really tough season, but you still managed to do it, which is such a great feat. So I hope you're like giving yourself a little pat on the back, because you deserve it. Yeah, just a little pat.
Thank you.
No, but I'd love to hear from Sky or Rachel how you kind of like pushed through, or have you have you found it hard to write or continue a story during quarantine?
I only write when I feel like it. So I used to write like on like a schedule basis. That's not a good idea. I just pressure on yourself. So I usually, when I get that writing feeling, I kind of remove that you have to get it done. You have to get it done now because no one's ever going to read it if you don't finish. So
good. I think you're giving yourself grace. Like you're being kind to yourself, which is the best thing. So kudos.
I think I mentioned earlier, but I did take a break from a lot of writing during quarantine. So I did plot some stories in the closet behind me. I literally plot my stories on trifold boards with sticky notes. So like I have like 4 trifold boards in there, but I never actually writ any of them. I just kind of took to plotting them and then kind of took a break because it was a lot. It was transitioning to working from home. I was also moving. And there was just a lot going on, as Joe said, in the world itself. And I just felt like I needed a little bit of time away.
And I think that just nicely relates to the next question that we have, which is how do you motivate yourself to work even though you don't want to, but you know you have to write? So if you're on like a publisher's deadline or something of that sort,
no choice.
How do you motivate yourself?
Well, there's no choice. I mean, they've paid you money. You have to write the book. There's a deadline. So sometimes, so it's actually, I mean, at the moment, I'm struggling so much. I said to my agent, because I'm struggling to write, I said to my agent, just give me a deadline, any deadline, just make something up and give me a deadline because I need a deadline to write. So I think that pressure and deadlines do a lot for one's motivation, I think.
Yeah.
I reward myself. So I have a notes on the notes app on my phone. I have a list called things I want. And depending on the words that I've written throughout the week is how expensive I can go.
Oh, that's
such a good system.
Like, what was the last thing you bought yourself?
Let's see. The last thing I bought myself, it doesn't really count. I'm returning to work next month, so I bought myself some new dresses.
That's lovely.
That's for fun.
That's nice.
That's lovely. But I love this reward system. I feel like I can definitely use that for sure. It's like, oh, if I can get 5 emails done, then maybe I'll buy myself something. That's really lovely. How about you, Sky? How do you motivate yourself to work?
I mean, I guess what like Joe is saying, like you kind of have to. Like if you have a deadline, you have no choice. And like if you're a writer, that's something that you enjoy to do. I would hope you like writing if you're going through that route. But if that's something you enjoy to do, you should be able to do it, pick yourself up and just focus. But I mean, like I said, I try not to put pressure on myself. I try not to do that. But if you have no choice, then think about how good the book is going to be in the end.
When it becomes your job, it's like you have to, you go to the office and you do a 9 to 5. That's what, most people do. But this is my job now, so I just have to do it. So, even if you stare at the computer for 5 hours and you only get a few words out, you're working and you have to just persist.
Definitely. And is that just, okay, so thank you for those answers. We have one question. How do you approach starting a story? So this is, how do you even begin?
For me, my stories are very character driven. So I create the character before I create anything else. We're in my office right now, but you can't really see. Hold on, I'll turn it a little bit. So those are some characters on the wall over there that I commissioned an artist to do. Oh, wow. So I always have like my characters number 1. And then what story are they telling me, which sounds kind of silly, but like when I have the idea of who the person is, I can create their story from there. And I think it's really fun to follow that character throughout the story and see where they take me.
Awesome. Love that. Joe, Sky, how do you start?
Yeah, so same.
Sky,
I start with the character and then versus like looking at, which is a cool idea, looking at the character in itself, I would list things about the character that I like or what I want them to be like. And then I go immediately to the end because like you said, Rachel, it's hard. You start it off and then you can stop. So go to the end because now that you have the ending, now you have to write the beginning. So at the beginning, and then that's basically how I plan. Like, and then I go through the middle, which is the big chunk. But you have the beginning and you have the ending. And that's at least some. That's enough. That's enough. So it's a lot.
That is so good. And is it easier to incorporate, real life experiences and place them in a fictional context, or is it simply easier to invent your story or your world from the ground up? So I think you kind of touched upon this when we were talking, that you draw, I think all of you kind of draw from personal experiences. But
absolutely. I mean, I feel sometimes like a bit of a sponge when I write. If I'm writing and there's something going on in the world around me that's sort of quite pressing or I'm thinking a lot about, I will it will enter, my book. For example, in Big Boned, I wrote about gender-based violence in South Africa. And while I was writing this book, there was it's known here in South Africa as sort of another pandemic, gender-based violence. And while I was writing this book, there was just so much on the news and it just felt like it was just so a part of my reality that I felt I had to, put it in the book. So I do tend to absorb stuff going on around me and put it in my book, I guess.
Wow.
To take off the question at the bottom of the screen, yes, characters are inspired by my personality. If I take Along for the Ride, that was written solely like when I was in high school playing soccer, doing soccer tournaments, and that is Caitlin to a T. She is very much headstrong, wants what she wants, and has to learn compromise. And I definitely think that it was a big part of my personality in high school was a lot of what's in Caitlin.
Oh.
Well, my characters, they weren't really inspired by my own personality, but like people around me or things that I've seen. So like in Saving Everest, the main character, Beverly, she was inspired by a friend that I had. And then Nami, who is a Black and Asian character, my best friend is Black and Asian. So I just took their personalities too and put it in.
Wow. I love that you draw from not just your own experiences, but what's going on around you. And I think that just creates such a holistic world and story. And I can tell from your writing that you do that very well. I'm loving all the comments coming in. Keep them coming in. But I also want to know what you are reading right now. Is there anything floating around?
The Invisible Life of Addie by Victoria Schwab. Thank you, Isabella. Super good. Super, super good book. She's amazing. I recommend it to everybody.
Okay, nice. I haven't actually heard of that one, so I will make a note. Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, you've sold it well. How about you, Rachel? Are you reading anything fun right now? Or?
So one of my friends, Kelly Blount, just came out with a new series. And she dropped like 3 books in 3 weeks. So I'm getting through the Gutter Girl right now.
I love when you can just have a marathon and it's like books you actually really love, because that you're so immersed in the world. You can just like sit with them for a while. So
you're able to like binge them all at once. You don't have to wait for the next one. It's great.
Oh man, I miss doing that.
I struggle to read words these days since, becoming a full-time author. I found audiobooks. I love audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks all the time, but I really struggle to read. I feel like it's work now after spending all day looking at a computer dealing with words. I get to the end of the day and I just don't feel like I can see any more words. So audiobooks are my absolute best. I don't actually read in my genre, which is sort of weird as well. I think a lot of people find that quite...
I do.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that?
Do you read...
No, I'm wondering why.
I don't know. I have no idea. I've never read... I read a lot of literary fiction. I mean, that sounds a bit like, highbrow or something. But, I just read the most incredible book called The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. I don't know if you guys... Yeah, it's amazing. Donna Tartt. I love Donna Tartt, obviously. I'm reading Perfume at the moment by Patrick Suskind. I don't know if you guys know that.
No.
Like a serial killer in the, yeah. So I don't know. I just read a lot of those kinds of books. Maybe it's nice to have a break. I think it's about having a break from what you're doing. And that's a complete break because it's completely different.
And also, I think it allows you to see what's going on the other side of the curtain. Like and also just to, I guess, explore what other writers are diving into, which is exciting. So I can see that. I definitely have just been consuming like rom-coms. I really just want like happy, joyful stories with a happy ending in this season. So I'm like, give me a happy ending. So that's definitely what I'm watching.
What rom-com?
So the last one I watched was yesterday, actually, Confessions of a Shopaholic. Like,
I've never watched that. I've never actually watched it.
Joe, you should. You should. It's
like
standard rom-com gold. You'd love it. Yeah. You can predict what's going to happen from beginning to end, but that's part of the magic.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love reality TV. Give me anything reality. I'm obsessed. I will watch anything about any kind of reality. Anyone's reality, I'll watch it. Anything. Yeah.
So, we have a question from Gabriela here about what makes a great writer. So what are the things, what are the things, I guess, from even the books that you've been reading that you've loved, that you know, like, oh, this is just great writing?
I'm there. Put me in the world that you wanted me to be in. If I'm there, then I think that you succeeded. Yeah.
I think I'm quite oh, sorry, you go for it. You started first.
So I think for me, one of the things I struggle with most in writing is imagery and like just like creating a scene and a setting. So when I read something that does that so well, I'm like, you are an amazing writer. Like, thank you so much. So for me, it's kind of taking things, just like being, well, I think it's what Sky just said, but being there in the book, in the scene, and like really there with the character.
Yeah, be really, really descriptive. I really like that because that helps me be there better. So how many heartbeats away when the character did something brave? Like, was the paint chipping off of the building? Like, put me in that scene, please. I would love it, please.
I echo that 100%. Okay. So, no, Joe, go ahead.
I have to say, so for me, I feel a little bit obsessed with the way words are put together. Sometimes I can even read a book that doesn't necessarily have a great story if the words are just like, like, for example, Donna Tartt. I mean, I've already mentioned her, but if you read her books and you look at the way she sort of strings words together just to create these images and stuff, like I'm a bit obsessed with that. I love it when people use words in an unexpected way that you would never have thought of using. I can reread a sentence like that 10 times. I'm just like in awe. I mean, some people are such good writers. I mean, I read some books and I'm like, wow, these people are just amazing.
Masters of worlds and words.
Yeah,
like that
and words.
That is the theme.
Yeah.
So words have the power to heal. At a low point, what are some books that you turn to that you would recommend to others, if any?
The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. Just like Joe said, like the way that the words, how they go together. I've never seen another author write the way that she writes. It's almost like she's really into poetry. So even while she's just telling like the original just story, it's beautiful, like the words that she uses and stuff. And it's about a girl who loses her sister and the grief that follows afterwards. And I think that was a really good book. I didn't lose anyone, but I think that it would be really helpful to others who have ever dealt with grief or loss.
Can you say the name again, Sky?
The Sky is Everywhere. And yes, I picked it up because my name was in the title, but it turned out being a very good book.
That is fair. I do that too. I'm like, if I see Grace anywhere, I'm like, oh, maybe I should buy that.
I'm in, yeah.
For me, when I'm not feeling at my best, I actually turn to poetry. So one of my favorite collections are by Amanda Lovelace. So The Princess Saves Herself in this one is one of my favorites. But I also like Trista Mateer. Can't think of any more off the top of my head, but I love to read like more modern day poetry. And I feel like it really just captures everything I'm feeling so that I can feel. I'm a person that has to feel my emotions to 100% before I can let them go. So if I need to cry, I'm going to find a book that's going to make me cry. If I'm sad, I'm going to find a book that's going to make me sad. It's just, I love reading poetry so that I can really just feel out those emotions. And I think poetry captures it really well.
Nice. I'd love to know what everyone in the chat is reading or watching. Yeah, let us know. Let's start our own virtual book club. So what is your biggest hope for 2021?
Sure. And this pandemic that can be over, and no one can lose any more loved ones, for sure. I lost my father 3 months ago to COVID, and it's my hope that no more families have to go through this, and no more loved ones have to be lost. I know that's a huge impossibility, but if we could just all get through this and get to the other side, it would be amazing.
Thanks, Jo. And my condolences. It's been a really tough season.
It's been for everyone, for so many people around the world, though. I mean, so many people are in this boat. It's just insane. It's terrible. Yeah.
That's my answer too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Rachel, is that your answer too? Just for the pandemic to hopefully be over soon?
Yes. Yes. I think Jo summed it up way better than I could ever try. So yes.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I think we can all agree, like all of us here and everyone watching, we just hope to come out on the other side stronger, but also can this wrap up soon, hopefully.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I am so curious, what are you working on now, if anything? Because no pressure over here. So
I might be working on something. It's still super underdeveloped.
Okay.
Please watch out on Wattpad, guys. Unfortunately, Sky, it's right there on the screen.
Okay. Unfortunately, Sky, we will be watching your profile like a hawk.
So I am currently getting my master's in creative writing. So I have a novel to complete for that. So I have taken on rewriting one of my biggest Wattpad works, My Brother's Best Friend, and kind of turning it into something more like I would write now versus I would write in 2015.
Oh, I think that's so great. Like when writers, I mean, you grow as a writer with time, of course. So looking back at your past works and being like, oh, how would Rachel today actually like weave the story? So I'm curious to see what comes out of this. And congrats on your master's too. It's such a big thing to be doing.
Thank you.
It's a huge one.
Huge.
I should be working, but I'm struggling to work at the moment, to be perfectly honest. Like I said to my agent, give me a deadline, because my brain's just at the moment sort of all over the place. I think I did say my dad, passed away 3 months ago. And ever since then, I just haven't been able to sit down and focus. And I know I should, and I do have things to write. So I need to get writing.
But remember what we said earlier, Jo, like be kind to yourself, right? Like don't.
But I also need to, because it's my job.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can't just kind of like, never write again.
I see that Dominique's just put in the chat that they want to get their master's in creative writing as well. So hopefully I love that, you're out here inspiring people.
Yeah, it's definitely a feat to take on, but I have really enjoyed it most times.
No,
do you feel like it's really? Do you feel like it's grown your writing and improved? Because I've thought of doing it a few times, and then I just never thought. I mean, do you feel like it's benefited you a lot?
So that is actually one of the things that I pulled the trigger on in quarantine. Was that I decided. It was the day before applications were due, and I just decided to go ahead and apply because why not, I guess I figured. And then I did get accepted into Queen's University, And I feel like my writing has improved by a tenfold.
Okay.
I don't feel like I've been very good at setting up scenes and doing imagery, and it is so helpful to have people. I do a workshop critique, so this week is my week of workshops, and it's been so helpful to have people. There's 9 different people workshopping my book right now. So they are taking the first chapter and they are just ripping it apart, and I live for that.
That's great. Because I also applied on a whim once and I got accepted, and then I backed out last minute and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do it. You know, maybe I should something to rethink for 2022.
Oh, well, thank you all so much. I think Sky, Rachel, and Joe, I feel like I know you better already. Thank you for sharing a bit of yourselves with all of us. I'm sure the audience feels the same way, and for taking time out of your day to speak to us all. So to our audience, if you liked what you heard today, please show these authors some love. Sky Chase's novel, Saving Everest, is available for purchase now, anywhere great books are sold, and Rachel's book, Along for the Ride, will be published by Wattpad Books in June, so just in a couple of weeks. And Joe's new book, Big Boned, will be published by Wattpad Books in September. So congratulations all, like so excited for the world to just read your books. So Wattpad and Maybelline have teamed up to bring you a writing opportunity to banish the stigma around depression and anxiety. So for every story written about mental health and tagged #BraveTogether, $1 will be donated to the crisis text line up to $10,000. So please check out @Maybelline on Wattpad for more information, and let's be brave together. Take care of yourselves, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.